kick us off?
I do. I am so excited about this call. I think it's really fun when we actually plan a call that we're probably more excited about than anybody else is excited about. We are starting a new series of really talking about leadership, stepping into leadership, lifting your leadership lid, what it looks like, what's kind of scary about it, but also what is kind of on the other side of scary. And so this is our first week of it. We're talking about the leadership code and unlocking really the skills that make you money. Like at the end of the day, leadership is kind of the difference between um, being stuck where you are in your income and actually developing what we say residual income or kind of money while you sleep. And leadership really is kind of the key in that jump between the two things. But first, before we jump into all of the nitty gritty and action items of this call, Becky Page had a great idea of a guest today. So I want her to introduce Kelly and just why Kelly was the very first person that she thought of to do this call. So Beck, I'm going to hand it
Yeah,
over.
I just had to take my dog was getting after a bone in the background. I was like, I got to get rid of this. Okay. Uh, so a couple weeks ago, Andrea she asked a question on our team page of, hey, what would you guys like to see more of on Masterclass? And we got a lot of great responses and we've looked over all of them. And one of the ones I'm going to give credit to, I think it might have been Christy Salcido. If this wasn't you, Christy, then just nod and pretend like it was. Somebody commented that they really wanted to hear more of a focus on leadership. And so I will tell you, I think when I hear team members start to talk about the desire for leadership, I really do think that is the tipping point. You are going to see all kinds of fluctuations in a business like this. And what will tip you over is either the amount of leadership that you've kind of worked up to, and you've got what we call a leadership lid, where you are now getting paid at the top of your leadership, either experience or your leadership abilities. And lifting your leadership lid really does seem to be like the thing that tips you into a next level, at least as far as income goes. However, let me say this. A lot of times their income far exceeds either their leadership desire or ability. And that just has to do with the fact that they've got other leaders on their team that will help carry that. But what Andrea and I have seen, and I'm curious how you guys would respond to this. We've noticed a lot of, what's the best way to put it? A lot of people feel stuck right in their leadership. And what I've really seen probably since like 2020 or 2022, I've seen a lot of leaders in burnout. And I think there's a lot of different reasons why that might be. It might be that a lot of people went through some of the grieving period coming out of 2020, or people might be in like a totally separate situation. I know we've got people who have dealt with marriage issues, aging parents, children, kind of like failure to launch or launching kids. There's so many reasons why your leadership might be kind of like in a place where you're circling right now. And so what I want to encourage you is, one, you're not alone if you're feeling stuck in leadership. But what we really wanted to do is Andrea and I started talking about how important it is for you to hear stories from people who've had to address like an obstacle or a stalemate in their business and have had to level up leadership wise and move forward. And I was telling Andrea, I was like, I'd really like to hear from Kelly Godwin. So just so you know, Kelly's not on my team. Her story has no impact on my personal business. But she and I got into a conversation, I think in the pool in Mexico, I think in the fall of 2023. And Kelly, I just remember you asking a lot of questions. And I remember knowing I just remember thinking I'm curious what God's going to do after this conversation in Kelly's life and her business. So she and I got to know each other in the beginnings of our business because we were both working professionals when we came to Plexus. I was a working therapist. Kelly was a working attorney. We were both young mamas. In fact, I think Kelly hadn't even become a mom yet when I first met her in Plexus. So this is part of the, like the commonality that we shared. In fact, Kelly, I think we even did a call at one point about being a working
Yeah.
professional and having a side income with network marketing. But I just want you to first tell us your Plexus story, and then we can get into some of the shifts that you've been in for the past year.
Yeah, and it's been not just the past year, it's been the last handful of years. So I started the products in February. I just had my Plexiversary where I didn't actually even know because I got the email in February of 2016 because I had just become a mom for the first time with our oldest in November of the previous year. And so I really suffered really badly with postpartum depression and anxiety, which was a shock to me because we had worked. I mean, we've struggled with infertility, and that will come into play in just a little bit too in the rest of my story. But my daughter Micah is she's a miracle. All children are miracles, but she is an extra. I like to say an extra special story because just the way that she was conceived, and then also the way that she was supposed to die when she was born. I mean, there's all kinds of layers to her story. So here I was. I'd wanted to be a mom my whole life, and I had Micah May, and so I was just I had these expectations that I was just gonna be living on this cloud of joy, and it's not what happened. I only allowed myself, as Becky told you, I was an attorney. I am an attorney. I was a violent crimes prosecutor with the specialty of child sex crimes, and the pace in my office was very, very, very intense, and I was one of the only females in my division, and I saw what happened when other people took time off for their families. They were scrutinized, they were talked about. I mean, you just did not take time off in our office. So I was really terrified of becoming irrelevant in my office. And my husband was in professional baseball at the time. So he left in January, right after, I mean, 2 months after our daughter was born. I went back to work within 6 weeks of having my child. And this is after going through infertility. This is after going through all kinds of stuff. So postpartum depression and anxiety hit me like a ton of bricks. And I just remember, my doctor saying I went in for my 8-week appointment, and I just started boohooing. And those of y'all that know me, I'm not a big crier. And so all she did was say, "How are you doing?" And I just started crying. And she goes, "Oh, honey." And she immediately wrote me a prescription, which is, and I always tell people this, I want y'all to hear me on this. I don't Medicine is not the devil. I'm not saying that. But for me personally, I have a close family member who has struggled very badly with addiction. And it all started when she was allowed to just self-prescribe these medications initially that I was prescribed. And so I was scared, and I called my husband who was gone at the time, and I said, "Hey, I've been watching my friends post about this voodoo plexus for a couple of years because a lot of my college friends, including Julia, had posted about plexus, and I scoffed at it. I turned my nose up at it, but I paid attention because they used words that I was interested in, like holistic healthcare and gut health. And I remember somebody posting about anxiety and depression connection to our gut. And that came back to the forefront of my mind, and I said, "I think I'm gonna try these products." And he was like, "You can try them, but they're not gonna work." I mean, go ahead and order them. And I did, and then they did work, and I did feel that light start to return to my eyes, and I started to become that mom I'd always dreamed of being. Because I mean, I dreamed of being a mom. I didn't dream of my wedding when I was little. I dreamed of being a mom, and I dreamed of being an attorney. Those were 2 things I dreamed of. And so I just started telling people about the products. I did not, y'all have heard this and you probably roll your eyes. I did not intend to start a business. I did not have time. I mean, my husband was gone. I worked 60 hours on average a week, unless I was in trial. And then it was a whole lot more. And I traveled every day for work. So that was one of my connections with Becky is like, I remember I would get in my car and I'd have to drive from one corner of the state to the other. And Becky was the person I wanted to listen to. I didn't know Becky from the hole in the wall. But I'd signed these people up for Plexus. I didn't know what I was doing. And so I was like, who can I listen to? And Becky just resonated with me. I told her the first time I met her, I was like, you are my Plexus person. Like you were the person I turned to for information. And I will always tell people that. So I just started to build a business without knowing that's what I was doing. I asked my upline, I called her one day. I said, why is this money showing up in my account? I literally had no clue. I just was telling people because the products worked. And then I went Emerald within I'd started in the business, I guess it was probably about April after taking the products. And then I went Emerald the next July. So I had a lot of organic growth. It was not, and I'm telling y'all this not to brag because the story will change. It will pivot. I had a lot of organic growth, and I worked very, very, very hard. Not, I mean, I was working full time and then also building this business. Um, but the growth happened pretty organically. From there was a point that I had to rebuild when I was senior Ruby, but it happened pretty organically. I mean, it was like it was a huge gift, a huge blessing, to the point that when I went Emerald in July, Dylan at the time, who was my jewel, what do they call him? Yeah, for Plexus, like what's
The old Jewel
what was
liaison.
liaison, thank you. I lost that word. Dylan was my dual liaison, and he called me the day that I went Emerald. And this is exactly what I said to him. I said, okay, well, what's my plan for Sapphire? And even my husband said, like, when I said, he said, let's go to dinner to celebrate. I was like, but I've got other goals. Like I didn't even take a minute because I was just so goal oriented, and I was so loving the adrenaline that it was providing, and I was loving the whole culture, and I just had my eyes set upwards rather than just enjoying the moment. And that was when a shift started to happen for me, and it was not a good one. Um, I felt like at some point, because when I was thinking through this call, when Andrea and Becky and I were talking, and I was thinking through the stages of leadership, and that's what I'm hoping y'all take from this is, um, there's y'all are gonna everything could be really great right now, or everything could be really awful. Guess what? If you keep going, you're gonna hit a different stage. All right. So I I was addicted to the success. And I didn't realize it. I just was like, I just had my eyes set on like the next best thing rather than enjoying the moment and the gift of the moment, what a huge thing it was. And I think at that point, my eyes shifted from my team and the greater good and how God was using this business. I mean, y'all, it's incredible because I replaced my income in a year, and I took, y'all, for law school, hundreds of thousands of dollars is invested in that education, and years and years and years of my life all focused on my law school education. And I remember sitting in my office one day thinking, my husband is gone for 10 months. My baby is essentially being raised by my mother. I would take her and drop her off at daycare at 7 a.m. and my mom would have to pick her up. This is this baby that I longed for my entire life. And I was sitting staring at the wall in my office, and I thought, this can't be all there is to it. I loved what I did. I loved advocating for children. I loved being in the courtroom and fighting for kids, but I love my kid more, and I love my family more. And I just thought, this can't be it. Like I can't, my schedule of being a mom is dictated by a judge and by my boss. And y'all, I replaced my income within a year, and I was able to take a sabbatical and go travel with my husband with our baby. And I lost sight of all of that. I mean, it was just like I became addicted to the success and addicted to like the next best thing. And I'm just putting it out there for you. I mean, that's just true. Like I just thought, all right, great, Emerald, move on. Let's move on to the top. And I think it was at that point my eyes shifted away from God and from my team and from others. And it really, without me even knowing it, success became my idol. And so that was when, if anybody has ever been in a position with Jesus where that happens, um, as loving, he is so loving and gracious and good to us that he lets us a lot of times fall, because when things become our idol, that it's not him. And I didn't fall. The thing is he allowed me so much grace, like even in those, like to keep maintaining my points. And I mean, but I wasn't growing. I wasn't growing the way I thought I should be growing and the way that I had planned on growing. So I did not know what was coming up. I did not know that we would be entering into a very long period of another session, or another portion of our life of infertility. And so after we had Micah, a couple of 2 years in, we really wanted another one. We wanted another baby, and we knew that infertility was a thing, but we had no idea. We didn't have to go through we were planning for IVF when we got pregnant with Micah, we had that scheduled, but then miraculously got pregnant with her. And then we entered into a few different rounds of IVF, bunch of different procedures, years of trying to get pregnant, 5 years of trying to get pregnant with our son. And so it was interesting because like I went through that shift from this leadership where I was really, really close to my team and I had my eyes focused on all the right things. And God graced us with this organic growth. And then I shifted inward and started looking at myself and my own goals. And then I entered into that season of infertility. And if anybody's been through that or any kind of health struggle, th- it changes everything. I mean, my whole life was centered around procedures and shots and hormones and barely hanging on for dear life, essentially. But God had given me this business, even though I'd become selfish at a certain point, and He continued to bless it. I wasn't growing the way I planned on growing, but I was maintaining, and that is so we've entered into that different stage of leadership. Like I went from organic growth, it was all about Him, it was all about my team, and all about the difference. I went through a stage of it being about me and the success that I planned on having. Then I went into a season where I couldn't even show up for myself, much less my business. And he still in all of his goodness continued to bless that. So when Becky and Andrea asked me, they said, talk to us about the difference that happened in 23. So what happened was we had our son December 29th of 2021. And it took me a while. I mean, as it does anybody, they tell us it takes us 2 years after having a baby to go back to our normal selves. Well, then you add in all those hormones that I was on for 5 straight years. I mean, it just took me a while just to get settled back in and be able to, I mean, to really look at the thing. I was still showing up for my business, just not the way I used to. And it was just a different season. I'd entered into a different season. So we'd gone through infertility, then a new baby. And then about Griffey was probably about, I guess, a year and a half when I really started to step back and really look at how I was showing up, what that looked like, what my goals were, and really honoring just the blessings and the grace God had given me through all of this time. So when we think about leadership, I was thinking about the word leadership, and I said, it was interesting because I think, I don't know if it was Becky or Andrea that said this also comes down to about leading ourselves. So in 23, I really had to hardcore look at the stages that I had been through. And I went through the period of infertility. And in that time, I started I was looking at leadership as before the infertility, I was looking at leadership as I really looked at it like management of people. I was managing, it was my job to lead my team. It was my job to do their business for them a lot of times. And then when I started trying to learn how to lead myself, I then hired a business coach. And that was when the shift of social media was happening. That was when the shift of our virtual office was happening. All of these things were happening at one time. And then I hired a personal assistant, just trying to make my life easier because I had all of this on my plate, still working, still leading this team, trying to shift from it being a selfish thing back into really serving my team. And this is a lot of mumbo jumbo, but anyway, so I hired the business coach, hired the personal assistant, and that was at that point I started to release control of my business. So in 23, I had gone from all of these stages and I started going, it's time for me to own this myself. Like this is not about managing people. This is not about hiring things out and giving control of my business. So I stopped using a personal assistant, didn't have a business coach, and I said, until I can re-own this myself and lead myself, nothing's going to change. I am not going to grow. Yes, I've maintained. There were periods that I didn't maintain my points. And I had to also ease into that as well and just like go, okay, I'm not going to force this. I'm not forcing growth. I am going to be okay not having an assistant, not having a business coach, not having someone tell me what to do, and I'm going to build again back over again. I'm going to act like a silver. Even though I was still getting a really great paycheck, I'm going to act like a silver who is rebuilding a business, and I'm going to lead myself. So it had gone from leading other people, managing other people, giving ownership of my business to somebody else to going, if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead anybody else. And that was something, it's like mastering others is a strength, but mastering yourself is where the power lies. And you have to, and this is what I'm saying, you're going to enter different seasons. If you're in growth right now, fantastic. you're probably going to hit a season where you may not be in growth. If you're not in growth, if you're stagnant, keep your eyes up and learn to lead yourself. I don't care if you say, I have no one to lead yourself. You do have somebody to lead. Because when you learn to take responsibility, like one of the key elements of leadership is responsibility. And if you can take responsibility, then that you can take action. And if you can take action, you're going to see results. And that's what happened in 23. I had to start going, it's okay that I'm not maintaining my points the way I want to, or I'm not hitting this rank, or I'm not getting the prizes that I want to. I am learning that in this season is a new season for me. I'm going to master myself. And I also reignited vision for myself. I mean, I know when we all start and people say, come up with your why, that it seems a little hokey to some people like me who are not like, I'm a black and white kind of person. I like action steps. I don't want to create vision boards. So when you tell me to do that kind of stuff, I'm like, no, just tell me what to do. Like, just tell me what to do. And so I realized that, I mean, the Bible says it, without vision, the people perish. And Helen Keller said it best. She said, the worst, even worse than being blind, is having no vision. And so if you're in a season where you're stagnant, or you feel like you're not growing, or even you are growing, but knowing that you could prepare for a season where you may not be, developing the vision for where you want to go and mastering yourself and your own responsibility. And that was the shift that happened for me in 23, is I stopped blaming my upline. I stopped blaming a business coach. I stopped blaming an assistant, stopped looking for all of those people to do things for me, and realized it was my business. I am a business owner. They don't own my business. I own myself. And it's time for me to step into that leadership, which, if you really want to know the irony in all of this, I am a leadership professor. Okay, at a university. So, I mean, so I can teach you all day long, but mastering oneself is really the key, and it's the hardest thing to do. So just knowing that there are going to be different seasons, and learning to go to ride on, this sounds really hard for us control freaks like me, learning to ride that wave and saying, it's okay. Like, it's okay. But what I choose to do with myself and my actions, that's what matters, no matter what the season is.
Kelly, when you talk about acting like a silver, like
Yeah.
having a rank of emerald and learning to go, okay, but now I'm going to act like a silver. What did that look like on a daily basis?
It looked like going back to ground zero. I mean, like when we all first started, and saying, and y'all, I tell people this when they get started all the time. I'm like, it is a super simple business plan. We overcomplicate it. And it really does come down to, it comes down to doing the simple stuff of posting. It comes down to, especially for me, for those of us that have been in the business for a while, people, see your post. It We stop reaching out to people and talking to people about it. And then the other thing that I got really lazy about was, because I have a love-hate relationship with social media. I really do. When I joined Plexus, I was a sex crimes prosecutor. And so I was not active on social media at all. I couldn't be, because the kind of crimes that I prosecuted, I had to be really super safe with my family, and with, I just didn't use it because of my career. And so I had to learn how to use social media. And I still to this day have a love-hate relationship with it. But one thing I stopped doing, um, is I really stopped purposefully engaging with people. We a lot of times will look at least I will look at social media as just a tool for business, and we're forgetting the whole point. It's really about connecting with other people. And so to this day, when I say, I can show you my to-do list for today when I'm working from home, and I have specific people that I will go engage with on their social media, not about Plexus, just about life. These are people that, and you have to have a long game vision. Like, you have to, when you're sitting down to write that vision out for what you want, um, why you're doing what you're doing. It's really, these are the kind of people that I want to do business with. And so I want them to know that they matter to me. I tell my students all the time, leadership influence can happen with people you don't know. We're all influenced on a daily basis. You open up social media, you can be influenced to buy the biggest piece of crap. I do it all the time, just because somebody that I like post about it, right? But real leadership, and that's what I hope everybody's goal is. I mean, real leadership where true difference happens in relationship. So influence can happen outside of relationship, but real leadership happens in relationship. And I want people on my team when they come to know that they matter to me. And so, because we're in the business of changing lives, it's not about just building a paycheck and your own legacy, because legacy happens when you're affecting other people, right? Because no matter how much money you make, no matter what kind of car you drive, what kind of house you live in, nobody's going to remember any of that when you die. They're going to remember the difference you made in their lives. And so I try to look at social media as a tool for building legacy and relationship. And these are people I want on my team. And even if they never join my team, at least, you know, I've hopefully made a difference in their lives because I've focused on relationships. So it comes down to, yes, the posting matters, but those of us that have been in this business for a while, we need to be reminded that it really is about the people, and it comes down to purposeful engagement. So reaching out to those people, and then also talking about Plexus. So the people, when you're warming up your market and you're building relationship with these people, not being afraid to talk about the business and to talk about the products, because we often we're like, oh, people have seen us post about this for 9 years. I don't need to talk to them. Well, y'all, I waited for someone. I went to school with all of these girls that were Plexus Jewels. Nobody ever reached out to me. And I literally waited for someone to reach out to me about Plexus. But my one of my uplines can tell you they didn't, because they just assumed I didn't need it. They thought they saw I was a lawyer or whatever. They didn't assume they assumed that I would not want to do it. And I'm still guilty of that to this day. And that is one of the things I do on a daily basis now is I am purposeful about talking to people about it and, trying to build that legacy business.
Okay, my last question is, when you went through this shift where you're like, I'm going to take ownership of everything, I'm going to act like a silver, I'm going to re-engage in ways that I've been disengaged. What were some of the wins or some of the shifts that you started to see happening in your business?
Well, I started bringing more people in that wanted the business, because our energy attracts. And when I had shifted my attitude and reignited my vision again, that comes across. Like, people can sense even on social media when our energy is not there, when we don't believe in what we're talking about. And so I started to attract people that wanted the business again, because I went through a long period where I wasn't getting that. And so it was just what I saw, the type of people that were coming to me or responding to me, when my attitude changed. It really, I had not thought about that till you asked that question, but it is absolutely true.
That's what I noticed from afar. Obviously, you and I weren't like, talking frequently, but I remember suddenly seeing, not that there was never a time where I was like, where's Kelly? Kelly's
Yeah.
not, it was never like that. I just remember suddenly being like, oh, and I remember knowing, oh, we had had that conversation in the pool. And now, like, just seeing you on social and knowing that you had had this like shift in your energy, that you were, um, yeah, owning it. Although I would not have known, I would not have known personally that, oh, she went through a season where she wasn't. I just remember noticing it happen
Yeah.
on your posts. And then I think I saw you on like leaderboards and saw you getting announced. So obviously it was having like a positive impact on your developing other leaders. And the reason I ask you that question is because I think, we always want to get with people and be like, what are you doing? If someone has a good recruitment, it's like, what are you doing? Like there's some magic thing. And I really do just think it has to do with the kind of energy that you're bringing to your business on a daily basis. Like there's
What?
no secret sauce.
Yeah, and I think that's why when either again, I don't know if it was you or Andrea that said talking about leading yourself, that struck a chord with me, because like that is, we can all sit back and say, oh, my team's falling apart. I don't have a team. I don't have anybody to lead. Lead yourself, because that's going to be where the real growth happens. You're not in this position to manage people. You're not a manager. You're supposed to be a leader, and that includes, and it really is, knowing yourself is the first rule before you can really lead other people. So it is your responsibility to lead yourself. And I know when I'm out of balance. I know when I'm not focused on my time with Jesus, or I'm not exercising, like something is off. And it's the way, even the way especially the way I show up on social media or with people is a direct reflection of that. And so it's, you are your first responsibility before you can really focus on telling other people what you think they should be doing. That's not your job. It's to lead yourself first and be an example, because good energy does attract, and people want. I teach my students this all the time, especially when we're talking about public speaking, and I use I talk about using strength language, and I always tell them, it sounds really harsh, but confidence is key in leadership. And this is where the harshness comes in. I will tell them, when you stand up to speak, I don't care what you feel. I care what you project. Because if you project that you are confident, you will eventually feel confident. And so it's learning, like, people are going, strength attracts strength, and people want, but if someone stands up and says, "Well, I don't know, I'm not really prepared for this. I'm not going to go." Oh, give me some of that. Sign me up for whatever this is, I mean, it's learning that, like, if you feed into yourself and you really work on balancing yourself spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically, that people are going to want what you have. And it's going to make you talk about Plexus a lot more confidently. It's going to make you want to share with people, because you first led yourself, knowing that that is the first step. It's the first important step. So,
Okay, I love this, and I got to camp out for just 1 minute, and then I'm going to pass the baton back to Andrea, because we've got work for you guys to do around. We've had some action items for y'all to do. But what Kelly is talking about is the idea of act as if. Okay, so a lot of times, and this is what I see, and honestly, I'm just going to go ahead and say this. This is an epidemic on our team, and you need to know that it has affected me. It's affected Andrea. Of course, it's affecting all of us. But it's this idea that we're waiting for Plexus to make us feel as if we are a leader. And then, and we're also waiting for other people to come to us like, can I have leadership from you? So the idea that a lot of people weren't approaching Kelly, and Julia Cartier will be one of the first to say this. I think she said this to me even last month.
yeah.
I kicked myself for never approaching Kelly, because I told myself, well, she's not looking for this. Okay. But a lot of times we are waiting, especially in this industry, we're waiting for our company or our products to suddenly make us feel like we have vision, or make us feel like we're a leader. The deal is, you need to start acting as if, and then you will see the response. So often we are waiting for this outward trigger to call us into leadership, versus assuming, hey, God, you've given me this passion, this desire here. You've planted me here, and you've never told me, like, hey, the door's shut, walk away. But I'm not feeling it. And the truth is that you're not going to, until you, like Kelly's talking about, project that. And this is not manifest destiny. This is nothing like that. This is that I'm going to assume I'm a leader. Kelly said earlier, influence happens, but leadership is based on relationships. So I'm going to reach out to people and go, do you need leadership in this area? Hey, do you want to earn $500 a month? Because if you do, I can help you do that. That's the assumption that I'm going to pursue you in a relationship to lead you. And guess what? You're not going to feel like a leader until you start acting like that. And that's that idea of act as if, and then the confidence comes, right? Versus stop waiting for the confidence to hit you first. It's not going to. It's going to be the result of that action and that behavior.
That's exactly right.
I think that's a good shift, that we're all, especially, and hear me, I'm going to preach to myself really quick, because we're talking about leading ourselves. If you've been in a position of leadership, I don't care if it was like you've reached, maybe if in Plexus, we'll call it, like, if you've reached a certain rank where you decided, like, oh, well, now I'm a leader, I have a team, whatever that looks like for you. It might look like gold, might look like senior ruby, it might look like diamond, it might look like a reentry, whatever. And then you have seen your points go backwards, and you have stepped back from leadership, then you have made a misstep that I have made over and over in Plexus. So I've earned the right to talk to you about this. You have assumed that your leadership was built on that out. It's not. I'm a leader because God has allowed other people to come under responsibility of relationship to them. And so the outward signs of leadership withdrawal, whether it's my points went backwards, my rank went down, my influence might have suffered, people aren't responding to me the way that they did 3 years ago or whatever, that has not changed the fact that we are still called to leadership. And so it's like, I just want to encourage you, lean in again. Just try leaning in again for a while. Like, don't just do it for a week. Give yourself a grace period where you get to lean in for 6 months and then see how you feel about it. Truly.
I think that's what happened. Like when I, especially the period of time I saw my points drop and I wasn't growing, I really started to second guess myself, which is where the irony is that I teach leadership. But that really, you know, we have to go. And I told a new girl on my team this the other day. She was like, I don't really have a story. And I said, you can't discount yourself. Like, me going through that period of time where I doubted myself, and then the seasons of infertility and all of the weight of the world sitting on what felt like sitting on my shoulders, that's a part of my story, and that's going to resonate with somebody else. Like, God has, and I was praying about this before he jumped on this call, and I thought, God gives us talents for us to use them, not to keep to ourselves. And I always say this about Plexus, like, we can either hold it like this, and this includes your talents, in a closed fist, or you can open it up, which is what you're supposed to do, to give it back, because it's not yours anyway. God gave it to you, so it's his, right? And so it's offering that back for his glory, your good and his glory and other people's good. So you can either sit there and go, I don't have a story yet. I don't have a leadership story. I don't have a product story. No, you do, because everything that you have been through up until this point is your story. And someone else is waiting to hear that. It's not going to be as effective coming from me. They're waiting to hear it from you. And that's you stepping into that leadership, leading yourself and realizing that, and stepping into your calling, no matter what your points are, no matter how many people you have under you or don't have under you. You have a story to share, and that's all a part of that leading yourself.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
We reached out to Kelly like literally last minute on like last Friday. And we're like, can you be on? And she said yes. And I was like, oh, I really appreciate you. And honestly, I have loved seeing what you've done. And that's one of my favorite things about Plexus is like Kelly's success doesn't affect my bottom line at all. I just love seeing other people win. And I don't know why, but I love seeing it even more when it's like a comeback story, like the Super Bowl
Yeah.
last night. I really love the Chiefs, but I was like, man, I've seen them win a lot. It was kind of nice to see.
I'm always rooting for the underdog. Yeah, always.
So
Yeah.
great. So thank you, Kelly. I really thank you for your time and sharing your story. Okay, I'm going to pass over to Andrea because she's got some good teaching and action items for us to dig into.
Golly, that was so good. Like, I think it's important for everyone to sit in your own seat and realize, like, what is this speaking to me? Like, one of the things I really, this year, and Becky challenged people, and I took to do this Bible study reading every day. And I think what's so important is, like, my brain, I don't know if this is you, but whether I'm sitting in convention or leaders retreat or a sermon or reading my Bible, I'm like, so-and-so really needs this. Like, so-and-so really needs to hear that. Like, I'm even thinking, like, it's so hard to not be looking at these faces and go, I really wish this person had gotten on this call today. They really needed to hear this portion. But the Lord just keeps going, but what do you need to get out of this? But what is this for your business? Like, what do you actually need to apply? And so I really want to challenge you that over the next few minutes, while we kind of go into action steps, really around almost everything that Kelly covered, is I want you to think about it in your personal business, your own action items. Not, oh, I'm going to send this recording to so-and-so. They really need this call. Or I hope this motivates this person to get into action because it would really help my points and my convention credits if this, level 1 or level 2 would catch the vision of this and get back into it. I really, really want you to sit in your own business for the next few minutes. And really, how does this affect you? So the first thing is, we're going to talk about 3 leadership skills that create momentum and attract builders. So we're going to literally go from what Kelly talked about, your leadership skills, and how that's actually going to grow your personal business. So the first thing is leading by example. So people don't necessarily do what you say. They're going to mirror what you do. And so one of the things in that is you can only talk about getting into relationship with people if you're doing it. Like when Kelly's talking about like, well, I decided to reach out to 3 people every day, having nothing to do with Plexus, but really just cultivating relationships with specific people that are on my list. Like she can only talk about that because she's doing it. Like it becomes so much more authentic leadership when she's saying, this is what I'm doing. This is what's on my list of like action items today for my business. And when you do that as a leader, then your team goes, oh, okay. So that explains why you're on the leaderboard last month. That explains why you've already, hit this level of the convention contest. That explains why you got the Amber Volbert is a great example. She got the jewel bonus last month because of things she'd been doing for 3 months. It wasn't because of things she just did in January. It was a culmination of months and months. So if someone messaged her and said, "Hey, what'd you do?" She's like, "Well, starting back in October or September, this is the brain shift that I had, and this is the shift that's happened in my business. And because of that, here's what my personal recruiting has looked like. And because my personal recruiting has looked like that, it's been easier to get back into conversation with my team." And so I just think it's really important for you to make sure that you're leading by example and you're not leading by just words. I will promise you in the past 11 years, there have been plenty of times I've gotten on a call and told y'all exactly what to do and not done any of it myself for months after months after months. And guess what happened to my points? Nothing. And it's not because you didn't get into action, it's because I wasn't actually doing my own action. And because I wasn't doing it, it probably felt really inauthentic and really like that doesn't make any sense to everybody else that was listening. And when that person doesn't feel connected and authentic to what I'm actually telling them to do, they're probably not going to do it. So it's so important if you are, leading a team of 2 people, 3 people, 30 people, that you are actually doing the action steps that you're talking to them about doing. So if you're not showing up, why would they? So if you are on this call, but you didn't invite anybody to this call, why? Like like in some way you're showing up here. Why are you not inviting your team to come along and show up with you? Are you consistently working your business, sharing your journey, your personal journey, and are you the energy that you want to attract? Exactly what Kelly talked about. Like, are you the confidence that you want to attract? Are you telling the stories that you want to attract? Are you showing up? Your team will not show up if you are not. Every once in a while, we'll have a rogue person that we thank the Lord for that does their own business without us doing anything. But if you want to grow, you have to show up first. You cannot expect your team to show up first, and you cannot tell them to show up if they don't see you showing up. Okay. And the action to this would be posting about what you're doing in your business today. Like what's going on in your personal Plexus business? What are some things that are different this month than they have been before? What are some thoughts that you're having that are differently? What do you want to guide people on that you're on the same journey with? Like, I'm going down this road. Come along on the journey with me. Be really authentic. But where are you showing up about your business publicly? Okay. Next thing underneath this is casting vision and building belief. So your belief in the business has to be bigger than your doubts. So you have to believe that something is bigger than you. So speak with confidence, exactly what we were talking about earlier, about where you're going and what's possible. What is the vision that you have, that long-term vision? What's the word that Kelly used? What's your legacy with this? Like, are you talking about that? Sharing stories, your own or others, to show real success. You should be sharing a business story of some sort daily. And I don't care if that's all in your Instagram feed, stories or your feed or your Facebook feed, somewhere that you're showing the success of this business is possible. And in different ways, not always just money, but like, oh, I'm resharing a story I saw somebody else share. Today I reshared a story about taking Joe to a Lakers game the February before the whole world shut down. Like that was like looking back on that, I thought that was like, oh, we have money, we're spending it, no big deal. Looking back on that, the gift of being able to gift my husband with something that just would is as a stay-at-home mom would have never been possible. And I got to do it. Like, where are you sharing the fun things that Plexus has allowed you or other people to do? So action, reach out to one potential business builder and paint a clear vision of what's possible for them. Go reach out to your Kelly, the scary person that you're like, they don't need it, and just practice on them. Maybe they don't need it. Maybe this isn't the season for them. But remember, Kelly went from like a fall where she would have probably maybe said no to the next spring where things are happening. And she's like, okay, I'm leaning in. I'm listening a little closer. What do you mean there's a business attached to these products? Like, I'm not interested, but maybe I am. Do y'all see how that push and pull always happens in the beginning where people go, well, maybe I'm interested in your products. I don't know. Maybe I'm interested in your business, but I'm not really like, I don't want to build a business, but I'm kind of interested in what it takes. Like it's that push, it's that relational like conversation. Okay. And then she mentioned this word so many times. We're going to talk about it a little more in detail, but empowering, not managing. So stop trying to drag people. Find the ones who are already hungry. And y'all, that might only be you right now. You might be the only hungry person on your team right now, and that's okay. You're going to empower yourself and not manage yourself in the Plexus business. So here's what that looks like. Asking more questions instead of giving all the answers. Maybe you start asking yourself some questions. A lot of what I wrote down when Kelly was talking was questions for myself. I do it the whole time I'm reading the Bible. The whole time, ask back. I almost daily send her a message of like a question, like, well, what does this mean? Well, is God still healing? What do miracles look like? What, like, I'm asking myself these same questions because I'm wrestling with things. What are you wrestling with in your business right now? Guide either yourself or other people to step up rather than doing everything for them. If you ask me a question that is available in Help Center, I will send you to Help Center. Not because I don't love you and don't think that you are worthy of the immediate answer, but I would rather show you that it's available for you to go research. When we message corporate, the first thing corporate says is that's in the Help Center article. So I always make sure I go to my emails first, my Help Center first, the team page first, that I've looked in the comments, that I've looked a few places, that I've looked on the Leaders Retreat agenda before I ask someone, does anyone know what the themes are? It's available to you. Your time is just as valuable as my time. So you going and looking for it is really important. But if you want to message me and say, hey, I don't know where to even start looking for this, or I've looked here, here, and here, and I still haven't found it, I will dig into the trenches with you. So I think both of those are really important. So that's empowering, not managing. So the action step to that would be checking in with one team member and saying, what is your goal this week and how can I support you? So who is the person that you want to check in with? Okay. The next thing we're going to go in is diving a little bit deeper into leading and managing, or leading versus managing. First thing is managing pushes people to take action. Leading inspires people to take ownership. So I can actually go get you to, I can maybe in management mode say, go, message 3 people. But if I actually am leading you, I'm like, here's like, who are the 3 people that you want to message? Okay, tell me a little bit about them. Tell me some questions that you're going to ask them. Tell me why you want to have them on your team. And as I'm leading you into conversations, just you and me, Christy, I'm just thinking about you. Like if you have someone that you're like, I really want this person on my team. Great. Why? Who are they? What do you see in them? What influence? So now that we've talked about it, when you go message that person, Christy, you feel really empowered into that conversation because I didn't just say go message 3 people and here's a copy paste to message them. We've actually had a conversation. I've led you in the conversation so that when you actually go out and message that person, you have all of the like, here's why I was thinking about this. And I was just talking about you the other day with somebody, and here's why I was talking about you. And it feels more authentic than I'm checking a box of a copy paste message to 3 people. It's so different. So managers chase their team, constantly saying, did you do this? Have you done this? And leaders show up and take action and share the journey, inspiring other people to follow. Um, so I really want to challenge you that instead of saying like, did you work today? Essentially, which is what we say when we're like, hey, what'd you do here? Here's what I did today. Back to what Kelly was talking about. We're like, do it yourself first. Right. Here's what I messaged someone today. Like, how would that work for you? Or how does that work for you? Or how can you use that? So you showing up first. So micromanaging and over explaining is one of the things I'm really, really great at. If y'all haven't noticed, I can micromanage and over explain with the best of them. But one of the hardest things for me is leading is keeping it simple and letting other people figure it out. So I love being the person people come to and actually ask the questions, because then I can be the hero of the answers. But also, um, I have my brain does not keep things simple. Like, it doesn't have like the automatic setting of keeping it simple. So I think it's really important when we manage ourselves and say, okay, how can I keep this simple before I send this message? How can I keep the next step simple in this business? Um, Leaders find simple steps and help people take action. So instead of giving a 10-step plan, so let's just say what the next thing is. So if right now you have someone in your business who you think is ready to go and you're like, all right, poor Becky and probably Amber and Sarah. In the beginning of our businesses, I think I sent out a 72-page document of what Plexus is, what all the products meant. Like, Amber's laughing because she knows exactly what we're talking about. And I just forwarded them the same thing that Roz sent me, right? That I never looked through because it was way too much information. But if she had just said, go message 10 people about this, or who are the 10 people you want to join your team, or like, let's get into conversation. What does this look like? And then the next thing is, you're just inviting them to Monday night. And this is kind of what the call is. This is how it's been going because I've listened to it a couple of times. These are the kind of people you want to invite to it. And this is kind of what you want to say to them when you're inviting them. That's all I want you to do right now, is just invite as many people as you can think of to the Monday night call individually, voice message them, all the tips and tricks, right? To Monday night call. Okay. And tomorrow I'm going to send you a little voice message about how to follow up with them. And you're just taking them on the next step. You're just helping them move. Whoever got on the call, we're going to have this conversation. Whoever couldn't get on the call, this is where the recording is. Like, you're just sending them the next step in the process. If you have someone that does love a lot of steps or vision, I would send them the getting started guide, or the sponsor guide, because that actually gives them the tools, but you can actually send them the guide, the getting started guide or the sponsor guide, wherever they are in their journey, and you can walk through the next step. Okay, in the guide, it says this, here's what that looks like. And you're actually walking them through so that they can walk their person through the guide as well. Okay. Dragging the wrong people. Does anybody have a person in your head that you're like, I would love for them to do this business? I would love it. Oh my gosh, if so-and-so would just catch the vision and would just do the work and just post to their team or their social media, their team would explode, their points would double. We'd be on like a highway to diamond, reentry, all the things, if I could just get this person to do the thing. So I really want to challenge you to do a lot of little things with a lot of people, as opposed to having any one person on your radar. Managers spend too much energy trying to motivate those who aren't committed. You have no commitment from them. And the commitment is them actually showing up in their own work, by the way. The commitment isn't them verbally saying, yes, I really need $500. There's a difference in, I need the money and I'm actually willing to do the things. Tell me what the next thing is. As soon as they start doing the things, then you have commitment. Nothing steals your energy like pouring into the wrong people. Instead of begging people to show up, even on the call for tonight, keep looking for the ones that are already in action, that are already interested, that are like, yeah, tell me more about that. Those are the people that you want to invite. And if it gives you more energy to invite current customers, do that. You don't have to do the thing that's hard. You don't have to go after 10 people that you already assume are going to say no to the call tonight. Go after some yeses, as well as some of the hard conversations you want to have. Okay. So recapping action steps. Identify one leadership skill to focus on this week. So which one of the things that you heard today on this call do you personally need to focus on this week? Post something that positions you as a leader, a lesson, a mindset shift, success, something in your business that, a book that you're currently reading or audibling, or something you're leaning into. Like, what position makes people look at you and go, okay, she's actually like doing some work. That's a person I want to attach myself to. Reach out to one team member and ask about their personal goals. Like, what are their personal, legacy goals? Like, what do they want long-term? Not their vision board, but just like, what do you need to happen in the month of February? What do you need to happen in the next, quarter? Lead by example. Show up in your business first. So I'm really excited to see everybody showing up. I'm going to show up too. Invite, or did I write down? Oh, invite to the point of having, okay, so we are going to invite 3 team members to get on this call next week. We're going to have every single person who has 3 team members that are not on this call, I've already screenshot it, that have on this call next week, you're going to automatically get something. Like Tina Marie has all of my giveaway. I have tons of giveaways. I've mailed them all to her. She's going to mail it to you, a giveaway. But the goal is to have 3 people. Keep inviting until you have 3 current team members on the call next week. And I don't care if you want to invite potentials, whatever. The theme of next week is going to be how to spot business builders and finding the right people. So if you have people that are wanting to actually grow a business, that would be a really good call for them. But I really want to encourage you to have 3 team members on the call for next week. And if you say, I don't have 3 team members yet, great. Then you show up next week because we're going to talk about how you're going to find business builders and get the right people on your team. And then you can do it the following week. Does that make sense? Like, it's just like, don't beat yourself up if you don't do it. But if you have team members, then I want to encourage you to personally keep inviting until you get 3 people that are committed to next Monday's call. Okay. I think based on what Kelly said, a couple of things I want to add to this is who is on my engagement list. So who is on that list of people that you need to be engaging with, not necessarily about Plexus, but just staying in a relationship with, like being like a valuable part of their community. A lot of that's on social. I think it's interesting for you to write down one name of who you're prejudging, but you would really love to do the business with, but you're already prejudging them, that you're going, they're an attorney, they have all these things, their husband is a pro baseball player, the whole world looked glorious. I can only imagine from the outside looking in at Kelly's life. And it did not look like she needed, a network marketing, stay-at-home mom business of supplements. I'm sure there were a million reasons why people could say she's fine. If she's interested, she'll just buy them, but she's never going to work the business. And how wrong and how God changed that story so many different ways. I'm sure Kelly did not think that Kelly was going to be talking on this call 9 years ago. And then the last thing is, what attitude are you showing up with on social? And what attitude are you communicating with others when it comes to showing up for your business? So I'm going to challenge you to those things. We'll put those challenges, pick a couple, pick one, pick all of them, whatever kind of motivates you personally. But we've got about 5 minutes. I wanted anyone that needs to ask a question, like kind of dive into something you're thinking, something that kind of feels like a speed bump for you, or like, I can't move past this because I'm kind of telling myself this, or my brain is telling me this. Is there anything that we can kind of help you answer? Kelly's still here if you got a question for her.
Quick question for Kelly. When you say you grew organically, was that just by posting and reaching out to people you knew?
Yes. And I really was not afraid to talk. Once I caught the vision for the business, I really was not afraid to talk about it. I leaned very, very, very heavily into it. And it was, I didn't stop long enough. When I tell you that I just ran full throttle to this business. Once I saw the possibilities, I started looking around going, there are people making 5 figures a month working from their phone, and I go to work and I work 12, 15-hour days. And I made a really good income, but I just started talking. I didn't stop to feel fear. It was interesting. The fear did not hit me until later in the business, when I really started to doubt myself and my own leadership. And then I allowed myself to be paralyzed by that for a little while. But because I was so passionate about the opportunity and what it could do to change people's lives, because it truly changed my life. Like when I just wrote a post when just a little bit ago about the freedom, like and just forgive me, I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here, but the freedom, when I look at the Lexus that's in my driveway, I started thinking through what that stood for me. My first Lexus with Plexus, I put 75,000 miles on that thing, um, because I was driving up and down the East Coast to see my husband. Like when that gave me that Plexus or that Lexus stood for freedom for me. That was like this. I never had this freedom before, and it was freedom of time, freedom to choose my family, and I just did not apologize for that. When I was building my business, I people would sign up and I'd say, Let's get you 3 people." Cause I mean, I've never paid for my products and I was unapologetic about it. And that's when we stop apologizing, when we were talking about that whole idea of projecting confidence. People want, like, if you say, "I've got something that can change your life," and you don't do it with any apologies at all, they're gonna want what you've got. And so that when I grew organically, it was because I just went for it. I'm telling you, I talked to anybody and everybody about the business. And I had some people that caught the vision that are still with me to this day, and some people that just wanted to go silver, just wanted to go gold. And we just did it together because I just did not apologize for it. I just went for it. And it's like I said, later on in my business, I started apologizing for it. I don't apologize anymore again. But I mean, that was just the organic growth just happened because I just went full throttle for it. Did that make sense?
Yeah, I honestly, Stephanie's in a growth mode right now. I think it's so true that the more you know, the more you tend to apologize. And in the beginning, you almost don't know enough to even like,
Yeah.
I thought everybody would want to do it. I didn't even think anybody would say
Well,
no.
and I think that's where I'm a little bit frozen because I've been taking the products for 8 years and I know too much, but I love the business. So I've got to quit apologizing for this stigma.
Yeah, I mean, and you said it best in the comments. You said busy people get things done. Like you need to be looking for those busy people. I did not have time for this. And the people that have done the best under me don't have time. They either have a lot of kids or like big careers. I mean, it's just like busy people know how to take the chunks of time that they have. I mean, it all goes back to, and I think this saying has actually been abused a little bit when people say you can build a business in the nooks and crannies of your life. Yes, but you have to be intentional in those nooks and crannies and like really, and busy people know how to do that. Like busy people. Like, that's why when Andrea said that about making sure you're not looking at someone, because what people didn't know, what they thought they knew about me, they didn't know that we had a lot of debt. They didn't know that I was miserable. They didn't know that I didn't get to see my husband except a couple of months a year. They didn't know that I was suffering from postpartum anxiety and depression. They knew what they thought they knew. And it's learning to get over ourselves and go, we don't have even a third of the picture. We have this much of a picture that is this big. And so it's learning to stop assuming and just say, you know what? I'm going to assume everybody needs these products because they do. And I'm going to assume, I don't care if it's Bill Gates, Donald Trump, I don't care who it is. They all want more money. I don't care how rich you are. They want more money, even if they don't need more money, so everybody needs the business too.
All right, it's 1:00. Kelly, thank you so much for
Of course.
sharing. If y'all don't know, Kelly is bold in everything that if she has an opinion about something or a fact about something, you will know
Sorry.
exactly how she stands or where. It is so refreshing to just have someone who's willing to speak truth, and to not apologize. And I think because people know, oh, Kelly's going to be really bold and really like going to tell you exactly like it is in all areas of life, then you know she's being really honest and really bold here. So I want to encourage you, if that is a fun thing for you to follow along with Kelly on Instagram and just watch how she shows up for her audience. I mean, I personally love it. I message her all the time, things that I love that she shares on Instagram. And I think y'all will love it too. And I think sometimes it's just fun to get to know other people and different personalities within Plexus. So thank you so much, Kelly, for showing
Andrea,
up.
can I say something about that really fast?
Sure.
That's another thing that in many of the seasons that I have gone through, like when social media, when the landscape started to change and none of us really knew how to show up because it was like, oh, well, We have to have a certain curated feed and we have to look like somebody else. And here's the thing. This is something that I have embraced. I am a bold person, but it's something I've embraced more in the last couple of years. I am who I am. And when y'all learn to just lean into who you are, like the things that you love, the things that really set you on fire, that's y'all, I lose a lot of followers every single day. I really do, and I'm okay with it. Sometimes I'll look at it and go, "Well, dang, what did I do to offend?" But I do speak very boldly about the things that I believe in, and that just gets me closer to my people. Even losing people, that gets me because that tells me they're not my people. That's okay. It's when you start going, I don't have to apologize for the things that I believe in or the things that I enjoy or the parts of my personality that I used to worry about would offend somebody. It just gets you closer to your people. Start showing up and using your own voice. You don't have to be a different version of me or Andrea or Becky or Amber or anybody else. And that's really easy especially when you're trying to find your footing in Plexus, to think you have to emulate other people. No, God has given you the voice that you have, and given you the calling that you have, and the passions that you have, and the things that really, like I said, light you on fire. Use your voice. Use your voice. Be yourself, because that's what draws people into you. And even if you offend people, guess what? That just puts you one step closer to the people that are your people.
Yeah, I say narrowing it down, you almost like, it's not number of followers at this point. I really think on social media, it's quality of those
It
followers
is.
who wanting to follow you. So I would actually never look at how many people are following you, but look how many people are engaged in what you're doing, that like
Yeah.
what you post, that reshare it, that show up in your stories because they're like, oh, I want to see what this person's posting today. And I actually think it's more important for you to narrow down how many followers you have to the people that, like, the people that follow Kelly, like, know, and trust her. Like, they're like, I know exactly who you are. I know what you're going to give me. I know what I'm in for, and I'm here for it. And I want to hear everything that you have to say about everything. And Becky, Amber, Sarah, Kelly, I mean, we're so different. There's almost every single personality right
Yeah.
there in social media, and we all show up for different reasons. I mean, Kelly's probably not going to do a bunch of Amber's recipes, and Amber is for sure not going to show up with Kelly's bold political like stances. It's just never going to happen. And both of them have different audiences that are going to go 100% right behind them. Does that make sense? And so you want to find the people that are your people, that want to follow you and want to hear your content and want to hear your thoughts on things and want to cheer you on to success. So, okay.
Yes.
Bye, y'all. See you later.